Travis, my good self. I've got a little bit of time before I start working on the lawsuit. I intended to have more time to then do another video of the latter days, and I wouldn't be talking and you wouldn't have the interference of the air conditioning units. But instead we'll do this one, which should be quicker, involving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with the depopulation agenda. Part of the threat to America, as well as around the world, but specifically wanting to target America in weakening America for the latter days, when they would destroy America and then rise from the ashes with a new world order, which people have been fooled by these enemies of the people that it's just a conspiracy theory, when conspiracy theories are a legitimate investigative theory of crimes committed by more than one person. Instead, they call it fake news, so that the mass populace, and you've probably heard of it if you haven't believed it yourself, that a conspiracy is fake news, and it's not. And so this is part of the attack that we've been under, is a psychological attack, and this has a part with the depopulation agenda that had been utilized in the United States. It began after World War II. There were millions around the world, and even in America, who died from World War II. And as a result, there came the baby boom. Those who survived came home from the war and had babies like rabbits. And that scared the powers that be, who are intent on keeping the population low. And to counteract the baby boom, they utilized the new invention of TV to use as a propaganda medium to control the masses, as they moved America into the nuclear society age, where they were trying to convince people to have, an average of 2.5 kids per couple, rather than breeding like jackrabbits and having 10 to 15 kids. And I know women right now are going, that many? On my mission in New York, I was in Connecticut, and we visited a Mormon family, and I think everybody was a lawyer in Connecticut, but he was rich enough to support a large family, and she had just had her 13th child of her own, and then they adopted several more others on top of the 13 of their own. And she talked about how after, I think, 7 or 8, they just come right out. But if you notice, our economy makes it tough to have lots of kids. In fact, it even is hard now to have just one kid, especially with just one head of the household, the traditional man being the head of the household and having the job to support the family. It's nearly impossible. You have to spend decades in a career field and rise up the chain of command in order to finally get enough money to take care of an actual family. And of course, by then, you're in your old age, and the wife is running out of time to have kids. That's also part of the plot for the depopulation agenda, is ruin the economy in such a manner as to make it difficult for average Americans to have lots of children. And so the nuclear family generation was trying to do a psychological warfare to convince people that, oh, all you need is just a couple. That's the perfect ideal household, and a boy and a girl. And then trying to economically make it difficult for people as school tuition goes up and lasts longer, requiring more years, and then trying to get people to not have a family because you get limited student loans that require you to have a job on top of it just to survive on your own at college, let alone support a family. And so the financial punishments were implemented along with the psychological warfare. And they also recognized that when you typically tell a person, no, don't do that, that they rebel and do that. And so to help with that process for the depopulation agenda, they turn to religion to focus on hating and promoting hate against people who want to be LGBTQ. And that resulted in LGBTQ standing up and saying, stop abusing us, stop hating us. And so, yeah, more and more and more and more and more people started coming out of the closet to say, I am LGBTQ, and demanding that people accept them, and demand that people, religion, stop abusing them. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was a part of this reverse psychology warfare to control the population. Because if you've been paying attention, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints requires Mormons to get a job that sufficiently pays for a family. They want the woman to stay at home, they want the man to go to work, and they conflict it by saying, well, we don't want you to wait for an education to get married in the temple, but the husbands, the fathers, need to get the good job to take care of the family, otherwise he's a bad provider. And so the church not only bullied LGBTQ, but they also caused a conflicting doctrinal message to the Mormons that has caused a lot of conflict in the church, as the church is well over 50% who have had divorce at one point in their lives. The church does not count those who have remarried. They only count those who are currently on record as having been divorced when they do their statistics. And so the number is much higher than what the church reports. But this is caused by the church's conflicting doctrinal views of husbands need to provide for the family, and at the same time refusing to help the family during their financial struggles. in the beginning, telling them to have families right off the bat, not waiting for an education, not waiting for a career. And so the conflict is different. And this is part because the church wants to have those who are rich in the church to be the ones who are faithful and have the children. Whereas those who are not faithful because of their poverty are the ones who are not going to be able to have lots and lots of kids and be able to afford to live getting married early, as the church demands. And then the church, in conjunction with the state of Utah, punishes people financially and then psychologically through the religious order to have families and the father take care of them. And so all of these warfares against human beings have been taking place this whole time as part of the depopulation agenda. And I just wanted to share that information with you in the context of history as to what's going on. China, for example, had also been doing a version of depopulation agenda where they forced the people to have only one child, and if she's female, then the couple is out of luck because they don't have a son to take over the family. And so oftentimes, it's been reported numerous times, and even recently, as last year there was a big news report of the atrocities that people in China went through with this depopulation agenda attack on them, and the horrible things that people had to do, finding out that they're having a girl baby instead of a boy baby, killing the girl baby, or other cases they get cast to the streets in poverty, and giving up the girls to the streets because of poverty, and wanting a man and not documenting the girl, because if once they document the child, then that's it. They can no longer have another child. So lots of problems resulted from the China's government depopulation agenda there. But yeah, America was also implementing the same depopulation agenda. And now we have the coronavirus depopulation agenda, as they're trying to send our kids to school, as everybody is getting affected by it, as they tell us to drink bleach, as they tell us to take a drug that will kill us. And Governor Herbert and Russell M. Nelson are also helping to facilitate that, as Herbert has been buying the drug that kills and covering up the numbers and limiting the number of testing that gets performed and all sorts of other problems. And then Nelson, medical doctor, he knows exactly what to do during a virus pandemic, and instead he waited before shutting down the church, and then he opened up too early, sending missionaries back out into the field again, getting people back into church again. And he knows better than that. He has a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. Maybe he thinks that, well, he's no longer officially working as a surgeon in the medical field, so he doesn't have to worry about his Hippocratic oath anymore. It only applies when I'm working. But Yeah, that everybody is involved in depopulating the earth. And so, yes, now that LGBTQ, for example, have now solidified themselves, gotten rights for marriage and rights under the hate crimes, more and more people are no longer afraid to come out and say, I don't want to populate the earth anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what the enemy wanted, was for people to not populate the earth. Because there is no fruit from just so that you understand the bigger picture, that it is the enemy that has caused all this, because they know exactly how to manipulate people. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is also in on it.